pandemic took him, so
Oh shit.
he can't. I don't know. He can't do whatever it is that he wants to do, so he's going to do podcasts so he can talk to people. But he needs friends, so he doesn't have any friends. I have friends. He wants my friends.
I mean, we are pretty damn cool,
Aw.
so.
I have the best friends. Yeah. So I guess he's gonna. I don't know what he's gonna do. We're all here, and I am so glad that you two are here with me today. Thank you, thank you.
Mhm.
Um, and today I don't know, with my channel, everybody's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, maybe I want to do fun shit. I don't know. But I think what I really want to do is like, I don't know. One of my passions is like kind of social issues, talking about shit that I think people are interested in but don't know how to have the conversations, or maybe it's a little too awkward. Um, hmm? I have no idea what you're trying to say, dude. What's going on here? I can look my if you like.
Yeah.
Oh, do you want to come in, Spackle? Let me know. I'll send you a link. Oh, yeah, Gather Gang. Hey, loving it, loving it.
What's up?
So yeah, I definitely found, I don't even know how I got involved in Gather. I know Jay was ranting about something one day, and, was it Melody Joy was like, she should get a Gather link. And I'm like, fuck are you guys talking about? It just kind of went from there. But, no, I really appreciate you guys. You're awesome, and it's a great place to just kind of talk and chill, and you know, with good peeps.
Hmm.
And actually, I'm trying to find this thing now for to see if Spackle wants to come in, because I had asked her to come in, and she was on some "I'm too good for you" type shit. But a girl's allowed to change her mind, I guess, or whatever. All right, Spackle's a link, and that's the last time we're going to talk about Spackle unless she shows up.
All right.
All right, white guilt. Um, Niddy. When I say that
Hmm.
word, what does it mean to you?
I I perceive it as experiencing or trying to think about how myself and the people who've come before me in this country and maybe even around like the Western world have contributed to the suffering, the uh, denial of the privilege that people like me have experienced, and feeling like the weight of that, feeling the like kind of taking some kind of ownership of it, right? Like the people who've come before me, and maybe even I have, contributed to a widespread problem of inequity, and something needs to be done to change it, right? That's what
Mm-hmm.
I think. It's like, and it's not a good feeling. It's like that kind of change where it's like, oh man, I really screwed this up. I think I can do better. I hope I can do better, but I'm not sure what exactly I want to do better, right?
Okay.
Sometimes.
Stephanie, when I say white guilt, what does that make you think of?
Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, you are.
It makes me think of Rudyard Kipling.
How so?
Uh, it's a poem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get to the poem. God damn it!
Take your
It's
time.
it's it's uh it's a poem by Rudyard Kipling, who was born in India. He's an
Mm-hmm.
Englishman. Come on, man. Jesus Christ. And it goes, take up the white man's burden. And it's basically the duty of the English to civilize the world, my people, going off to far from flung lands, being sure that the word of Jesus is spread to the heathen, to the poor, suffering tribes. Bring them into the fold of God and God's people. Take up the white man's burden. I've got to find the fucking place because it's really grim, and it's
No, okay. You
find this thing.
you find the poem. I'm gonna go to Spackle and then I'll circle back. Hey Spackle, how's it going?
Good. You have to forgive me for not camming up with everybody else. I feel like mold. But other than that, I'm okay. How are you?
I'm well, and no, don't ever feel bad. I am so glad you're here because I know that I've heard you touch on this a few times, and I really wanted to get your perspective on it. And so, what do you think of, or like, what's your definition of white guilt?
Well, white guilt's a loaded word. And so
Yeah.
immediately when you say the word, you're going to not get a lot of people to listen to you. So
Hmm.
I tend to not like that phrase.
Okay.
And I think that I am not particularly guilty of owning slaves or anything like that. But what I would say is that I have benefited from evil, corrupt ways that we've done, like slavery. I think a lot of white people have benefited, not meaning to. Like we were just kind of moseying around. We got born, and boom, we're in America. But I think that I think that white guilt in the sense that like we need to acknowledge what has been done in the past and in institutions currently, and how things could change and stuff like that. In that case, I would rather say white responsibility, maybe, to fix what maybe, or at least listen, and if not, fixing kind of makes it sound like Kipling again. but but to maybe consider um, listening to other people who have had different experiences and figuring out what we could do to make things better. So I don't like the term white guilt because there's so many negative connotations to it.
Hmm.
And I think about how I used to feel about that back when I was a young Republican. And I think if you want ears to hear, the phrase is not helpful. And the people that are like MAGA like to use it as a weapon to shut people up who are progressive and sympathetic on race issues, or progressive and sympathetic on immigration issues, or progressive and sympathetic on institutionalized racism, maybe in like police departments, things like that, like um, justice system problems. So the phrase is kind of loaded. So it brings a lot of negative pushback, generally speaking, from everybody, everywhere. So
I am kind of concerned about the conflating between um, I'm sorry, white guilt and white privilege that I'm hearing. But I think
mhm.
Stephanie's found her poem, and I am very eager to hear that.
It's not too long. I could read. It's, it was written in 1899, not altogether that long ago, really. You think about it. Take up the white man's burden, send forth the best ye breed. Go bind your sons to exile, to serve your captives' need. To wait in heavy harness on fluttered folk and wild, your new caught sullen people, half devil and half child. Take up the white man's burden, in patience to abide, to veil the threat of terror and check the show of pride, by open speech and simple, 100 times made plain, to seek another's profit and work another's gain. Take up the white man's burden, the savage wars of peace, fill full the mouth of famine, and bid the sickness cease. And when your goal is nearest, the end for others sought, watch sloth and heathen folly bring all your hopes to naught. Take up the white man's burden, no tawdry rule of kings, but toil of serf and sweeper, the tale of common things. The ports ye shall not enter, the roads ye shall not tread. Go make them with your living, and mark them with your dead. Take up the white man's burden and reap his old reward. The blame of those ye better, the hate of those ye guard. The cry of hosts ye humor, slowly towards the light. Why brought ye us from bondage, our loved Egyptian night? Take up the white man's burden, ye dare not stoop to less, nor call too loud on freedom to cloak your weariness. By all ye cry or whisper, by all ye leave or do, the silent, sullen people shall weigh your gods and you. Take up the white man's burden, have done with childish ways. This, the lightly proffered laurel, the easy ungrudged praise, comes now to search your manhood through all the thankless years, cold edge with dear bought wisdom, the judgment of your peers. This is Kipling sort of half saying, you bastards, you assume so much. You assume the ignorance of the people around you, the people you've presumed to conquer, the people you've presumed to put forth the missionary zeal of conversion to your ways, to the ways of God, Christ, all of that. The beauty of Western civilization, because you have the power, because you have the guns. There's a it's more than just the privilege. It's, yes, look at the privilege you've got, but the guilt that comes with that is the last stanza puts it right. The easy ungrudged praise comes now to search your manhood through all the thankless years, cold edge with dear bought wisdom, the judgment of your peers. So the guilt is facing the judgment of our peers, those we have judged not to be our peers, those who we have presumed to be lesser than, the people we haven't listened to, but the people that we've conquered. And the guilt that comes with that is acknowledging we've done this. We've wiped out civilizations. We wiped out the people of North America who were here when my forefathers landed here. Now, part of that had to do with the fact that disease, it was not necessarily entirely intentional, but in some cases it was. I mean, sending blankets laced with smallpox to the Indians, like, that's wiping them out. That's genocide.
Yeah, I mean, it's
So
hard to
there's a
say
lot of
for
guilt
me
to
that
carry
it
there.
wasn't entirely intentional because, like, even for the ones that weren't, um, we had a goddamn scalp act. It's just like if it wasn't one thing, it would have been another. Sorry to cut you
God
off.
damn.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'll be back. Hold on.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, I think I do want to take it a step back just to make sure that we're not conflating things. So there,
Mhm.
and so what, a lot of what Stephanie did a good job of like kind of separating it, but um, I think a lot of the white guilt comes from the white privilege. So why don't we start by addressing the white privilege? And we'll go back to Niddy then. Um, Niddy, what is your understanding of white privilege, and do you agree with it, and do you see yours?
I generally think that I do see mine. With the very few interactions I've had with the law, I think they would have gone very differently had I been anything other than what I am by gene, right? Like, I almost got arrested for grand theft, and I guarantee you I would have been arrested for grand theft where I was pulled over if my skin were darker, if, I wasn't a native English speaker,
That's a
for
big thing to
sure.
get away with.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Right?
It
Holy
was it
shit.
wasn't obviously it wasn't true, but I was borrowing a friend's car, didn't know where the registration was. Fine. But like, I totally know that I experienced a tremendous amount of privilege in those moments. Given benefit of the doubt, all that, right? Um, and so I do feel like, you know, that is plenty of evidence for me to believe that I have this privilege and regularly experience it. But so I perceive it as either gaining or gaining different opportunities, abilities, exemptions from consequences that other people or groups, non-white groups, don't get, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I've got this innate elevated status through no particular merits other than my skin color, right? Um, and so whether that's like evaluation for like a potential employment or treatment by the law or social interactions in a particular area of the country, like all of those things uh, are included to me in what what I would experience as white privilege.
So, Spackle, I'd like to throw it at you. What's your understanding of white privilege? Do you agree with it, and do you see your own?
Well, similarly, I would say that I did not understand white privilege for a long time. And when I first heard that word, and I'm mentioning this because um, I think if you're interested in changing minds and hearts, sometimes these are things that like are maybe good to hear. And I did change my mind. When I heard white privilege, I immediately balked at it at the time because I was more conservative then, and I was like, and I came out of a serious bubble, guys. So give me a little room.
No,
I
no.
originally balked at it, and the reason why I balked at it is I grew up poor. I'm gonna just kind of for a minute sound like a MAGA person or somebody like that. So
No,
just
yeah,
not
MAGA
ever.
away.
But that's not what I am. But at the time, I felt like I grew up poor. I've worked all my life. I paid rent since I was 16. I didn't go to college. And I'm listing off all these things. I had a dad that was incarcerated. Like, I mean, I had like all these things that I'm like, I'm not very privileged. I don't understand what you're talking about. And then it took me getting out of the bubble and talking to other people and making friends that were not white. Because at the time, I was a homeschooled kid, and then I'm 19 years old working, and all my friends are white and stuff. Like it's not on purpose. It's just I wasn't exposed to many people. And then as I started making friends and seeing their experiences, and actually going out in public with friends, I witnessed a coworker get mistreated at a restaurant called Tyler's Taste of Texas, right? In San Diego, right?
Okay.
We go to lunch. It's an empty restaurant, not a soul. This bitch insists on sitting us in the back by the bathroom. Like all the way in the back of the restaurant, like on the wall, the most awkward place to sit ever. And my friend made a big deal. She's like, I want to sit not so close to the bathroom, anywhere but here. And the lady's like, no, we're gonna have a big party here. So we have to sit you here. And my friend's like, "This is bullshit. We're leaving." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I go, I'm like, "Do do do," I don't know what's going on.
Right,
Do do do.
right.
And then she explains to me because I'm just like, I don't know what's happening. And she's like, she's like, she just tried to sit me in the back of the bus. And I was like, what? Yeah. And I was like, oh, I didn't even think about it. Because you know why I didn't have to think about it? Because it's never an issue for me because
Right.
I'm white. And that was like one of the biggest aha moments of like, oh my God, this still is happening in Southern California? What? What? Like, whoa, and that was weird for me. Like and then I just another black friend, like she had some experiences too, where I was watching these micro interactions and they were just different. They were different. People were ruder and more curt, and I'm not used to that. And I remember noticing it, going, this is not acceptable. And like my friends aren't assholes, okay? So like
Right.
it's not about
Right.
that. And so then I remember like being in this. Well, at the time it was Ventrilo, playing video games, and
Oh
people would
yeah.
go, "You don't sound like you're black," to my black friend. And I remember going, "What?" And yeah, she
Yeah.
sounds like she reads and stuff. I'm like, "What?"
Whoa.
And I was like, "Oh my gosh." These are things that aren't ever said to me. You don't sound like you're white, Jesus, so
Right.
I was like, oh my gosh, these hurdles, and I started to see it, and my eyes started to open, and these are like not even the worst. These are just some of the daily things, right?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
worst things are in the justice system. When I drive and I see popped trunks, this is in Southern California, right? We're supposed to be all progressive and liberal over here. I see these popped trunks. Cop pulls someone over. Hispanic or black, Hispanic or black, Hispanic or black, Hispanic or black. They don't ask me to pop my truck. Never once. I've been pulled over. Can I see your registrations, license and registrations? I got a fix-it ticket for not having my registration up to date. They could have towed my car.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I almost got arrested. Look at these troublemakers here. I almost got arrested for illegally rock climbing because we were really
Okay.
close to the border of Mexico, and we were rock climbing in a place called Otay Mesa, and it was a big scene. Actually, it would have been Border Patrol in this case, and they were pulling us up, talking to us. They were debating about putting us in the back, and we are like all scared, and we are like trying to talk it out, and we were just terrified. I'm 19 years old, going, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to call my mom and be like, Border Patrol picked me up," and they're making a big deal. There was a time when I was a grocery store worker. We were on strike, and um, this redneck starts picking a fight with me because she's decided that we're communists. And she's yelling at me, and I'm holding the sign. She's spitting on me while she's talking. She's up in my face, and I go, back
God.
away, take a step back, take a step back. And I kept saying that, and she was like all in my face. Like when a baseball player fights, and they're screaming at each other nose to nose. She was doing that to me, and that's very triggering.
Yeah.
And so finally, I was like, this is going to turn into a fight. She's going to hit me. I was convinced she's going to hit me, so I threw my sign down, not at her, just down, because I wanted my hands free in case she hit me. And that was enough for the cops to come and say that they were almost going to arrest me because of the escalation. Nobody swung, luckily, but when the cops were called, I guess I guess the cops going thing is to go after the striker and just
Okay.
assume that we're the ones that are causing the riot,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I talked my way out of it. I was like, look, you can check on camera, you can do this, you can do that. We have witnesses. Listen, like I didn't throw it at them. And they're like, well, ma'am, if you throw down your sign, could be considered an act of aggression. I'm like, I didn't throw it at her. I felt threatened. But if I was Hispanic or black, um, it might not have gone so well. It
So,
really would.
SoCal cops.
Hmm.
Yeah, they have a really bad rap.
Yeah.
But again, it's mostly from blacks and Hispanics. Yeah, don't have a
Yeah.
lot of white women complaining about them.
Right. So I think white privilege is a thing, and I know that people talk about reverse racism. I think reverse hostility, and if it depends on how you define racism, as racism power or not power, things like that. But I would say that I have been in situations where I'm the only white person in a workplace, and I've had it be very uncomfortable. And assumptions are made, and I have to go over the hurdle. Like, well, you're white, you don't want to pick up a mop. Oh, you're white, this and that, and I have to like hurdle those assumptions. Like, I'm willing to mop, I'm willing to pick up a shovel. I'll be that person. So I've had to prove myself in those ways, but at the same time, like me being frustrated, oh, I have to prove myself. I think about it and stop and go, what is it like for other people that have to hurdle every single thing to prove themselves in some way? That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And if I don't like it, surely everybody else that has it all the time, like, I don't know how you cope. Like, that's terrible. So yeah, I don't know. Those are my thoughts. I don't know if I'm wrong or off base, but yeah.
Well, I don't think you can be wrong about your own perspective. And yeah, I really am just trying to get your own perspective. So, Stephanie, over at you, what's your understanding of white privilege? Do you agree with it? And do you see your own?
I kind of agree with everything Spackle just said. Being free from everything from small indignities to large offenses, to the the grace afforded me because of the color of my skin, as opposed to the indignities that might be heaped upon me if it were otherwise. You know, Boiled down, it doesn't matter. Class doesn't matter when it comes to racism. There is the element of class involved in white privilege because of a position that white people have held in this society, in this colonialist society from the get. I mean, we started, a huge amount of the wealth that that uh, built the United States of America was built on the back of enslaved people. Brown University, Providence, Rhode Island, was named after a man who made his fortune in the slave trade. And there's generational wealth that goes along with that. Not every white person is a beneficiary of that, but every white person is a beneficiary of not being subject to question as to their value as a human being. And that is something that has redounded down to this very day.
Mm-hmm.
This is where those indignities come from. This is where suspicion comes from. It's like, well, if you're a white girl doing something naughty, then we'll send you home to mommy. If you're a black girl doing something naughty, we'll take you down to the pokey. It's that kind of thing. So that's skin privilege right there.
Yeah.
You know.
I
Sorry, go ahead,
can I add something? I learned
please.
about I did a cross-cultural experience in Pittsburgh. But for but so the point was this Mennonite university sent me to live in the inner city just north of the rivers in Pittsburgh and live on this like communal um, mission space with like a community garden and a playground and an after school program for uh, the youth that go to school and trying to give them, it's all under the banner of Christianity, obviously, but trying to give them better ways to think about themselves rather than what like culture or society might say, right? Like rather than, oh, you're black, we don't expect anything of you, right? So that was pretty like, whoa, like people see the need to like bring the self-perceived status of these kids up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I never needed that. Like, right? No one was like, hey, let's round up the white kids after school and explain to them how people around them might view them. Like, no, right? And then the other thing was I learned about the history of Pittsburgh and why they say things like, this is the Polish district. This is where it's a bit more run down. Here's the other, like Oakland Park. Wow, it's fancy. Why is that? Oh, right, redlining. And as soon as I learned what redlining was, I'm
Oh,
like, oh, yeah, that's pretty fudged. Wow. Like, we were just straight up denying people the ability to generate generational wealth by denying them prime property or access to certain areas through discriminatory sales practices and
yep.
zoning laws and all that shit.
I
Like,
mean, and
what
it
the
goes.
hell?
It's just so much worse than that. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean,
But it really like was the bucket of water was
yeah,
like, you've had so much handed to you just
and
because of the color of your
it
skin.
is, and I try not to get indignant when I hear people bitch about, oh, I don't have any white privilege, and part of me just wants to be like, your ancestors sound really fucking stupid. Like, I mean, because like for the entirety of the country's history, if you had white skin, like not only, I mean, it's not even just about like prime real estate. Like there's a
Yeah.
Frostburg College out here that a black woman found founded. Like no white people. I don't know if they thought the ground was cursed or what, but they were like, you can't do anything with this land. We don't want it. We're not even thinking about it. And she was like, okay, I will take it. And then brought black people there because I mean, you know, Maryland, it was at the time of, you know, former slave state, and so we're like, okay, we're gonna go over here and, you know, do the thing. And then the white people looked over and it's like, oh, wait a minute, you've got things. Oh, this is nice. Okay, yeah, you guys get out. You get out, you darkies. We're gonna take this over because you don't know what you can do with it. This is ours now. I mean, just like nothing. Just kicked him out. No anything, no money, no compensation. Just we like this. This is ours now. Um, you know, kind of like the country's history. I don't know why I'm so surprised about that, but you know, when we it's actually not a lot better than a lot of former black areas. Like a lot of people don't know that Central Park used to be like part of Central Park was formerly a black neighborhood. There are also a lot of cities that were built on the ashes of black cities. There are a lot of lakes built over white cities. You can ride your boat over black churches. I mean, like if you look down, you can still see grocery stores and homes that were, you know, the people were like lynched and shit and driven away. And like every fucking time black people try to do their own thing, I mean, even like, you know, it's not just the redlining. It, you know,
Yeah.
we went and fought a
Also,
war alongside you. You came home. There is a housing crisis. You got money and quality homes cheaply. We were told to stay in the projects, and then all the businesses went out to the suburbs with the white people, um, stripping us further of resources. Um, and then around that time, you also get Brown v. Board of Education, and a lot of states began tying local taxes to the school systems. So, you know, just further stripping our areas of resources. And then, you know, and so now that everyone's forgotten all of this stuff because, you know, we've also stripped that out of the history books. And it's just like, well, look at all these fucking monkeys. Like, apparently they just want to live around each other and live like this. So let's just let them. Like, when we usually this is like kind of more into my reparations talk, but when we're talking about white privilege, it's like all these things that white people have been allowed to do, all these things that white people have been allowed to have, all these things that were no, you know, that were done and have not been taught, that you know have been at the disposal of white Americans, and black people had no access to. And when we tried to do it on our own, were taken from us. And to then bitch about, well, I'm not rich. So I'm just, I don't know. I'll get off my soapbox.
There's, you're not wrong. I mean, if you think of urban renewal in the particularly in the 50s and early 60s, the Cross Bronx Expressway in
Hmm.
New York, the Massachusetts Turnpike in Boston.
Hmm.
I mean,
Oh, no, yeah.
urban renewal
Oh, yeah.
generally. I mean,
Almost every major city.
there were literally neighborhoods torn apart,
Yeah. Yep.
and
Black people were
sometimes
doing too
not
well. Got to break that up.
very frequently black, not always black.
Not
The
always black.
most famous case that I can think of that was not really black, but not a traditionally black neighborhood, but the West End of Boston was
Hmm.
a primarily Italian American neighborhood.
Hmm.
Herbert Gans wrote an entire book about it called The Urban Villagers, a wonderful book. It was destroyed.
Hmm.
And what came up in its place? Projects. You
Yeah.
know, those people were dispersed.
Yes.
Their entire lives were turned upside down. And where did they wind up going? Low income housing, in poorly built,
Yeah.
poorly maintained, with and it happened in Roxbury in Boston too. You know,
It happened. No, yeah. I think it
it's
happened.
just there's a huge classist element to it,
Yeah.
but there's also a racial element
I know
to
it
it.
also happened in Detroit and Minneapolis, but there are also other cities that I'm not thinking of. But yeah, it was insane to me that there were cities that, I mean, seriously went out of their way. Like they could have just not. Like they could have just gone through forest. And it's just like, no, if we go in a little bit, we can break up poor people that are, or a minority community. It's not. I mean, it's not even necessarily about being poor or whatever. I mean, Italians for the longest time were called black.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of more subtle versions of that, like what you would call gentrification.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I'm watching more poorer neighborhoods in San Diego, property values going up, and it's getting so expensive to pay rent in these areas.
Yeah,
People are like, what do I do? And they get shoved out that way. And so that's another
yeah.
thing.
Well, that happened in New Orleans after Katrina. I know it's happened in Chicago. It's happening in Baltimore, D.C. God, D.C. is horrible. It used to be called Chocolate City. And when you get an ambitious mayor who decides that they want to turn the city around, what they actually do is start these gentrification projects to price the poor people out of the area. And it's like, well, where do they go? I don't fucking care. They go away from here. And yeah, we're seeing that a lot of cities are
Columbus too.
doing that.
So
But
many
yeah.
areas just getting rebuilt.
Yeah, and so Spackle saying, yeah, like no, no, they just like, look for new ways to do it. And I want to kind of redirect though.
Yeah, you're good.
We're talking about white guilt. So there are a lot of white people who, and God, I talked to so many of them on Twitter, um, and I thought it was interesting to see usually white soccer moms talk about, oh my God, I hate being white. Um, and after Trump, okay, so before it happened, before Trump happened, I used to look at these people and I'm like, how the fuck like, this is who you are. This is part of who you are. Like, why would you be ashamed of any part of who you are? Like, and you're not even the one who's doing it. You're just watching people who kind of look like you, not really do these things. So, like, why? I don't understand internalizing it. And then, like, Trump came, and then I had to start talking to people who are not Americans and just being like, holy shit, okay, I get it. Like, because, I mean, it's really hard. When you're talking about things that were done in the Bush era, the Trump era. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm an American. What did you do? Like, I totally did not vote for that. I do not agree with it. Full stop. Um, However, I do recognize that it is my country that is doing the thing. So, just know that, it's not everybody, and you have allies. But from a white person's perspective, I think kind of what Spackle was talking about earlier, I think Spackle was talking about it earlier. Um, you see these people where you hear about this history, and then you have to stare these people in the face. And there definitely does come shame with that for some people. Not clearly not all people. But when we're talking about white guilt, we're talking about usually the white liberals who are expressing shame about our nation's history. Um, do you understand kind of what I mean, or do you have any experience with that?
I think I'll start. So I remember seeing like different discussions through like news outlets or uh, places on Reddit or Twitter about this kind of thing, and like that, it's really tempting for people to uh, e- make it an extreme, right? Like, look at what your forefathers did. Let's rub your nose in the shit of the things that they did and make your life hell now because of what has happened to you. Wait, I want you to bend over backwards and meet all my demands right now, uh, you know, at gunpoint or whatever, uh, because of the things that you didn't necessarily do, but the people who came before you did, right? That you still get to enjoy because of your skin color. And I don't think that's productive. Because what it will do is just make people of the opposite side, particularly the white people, it'll just make them scared of you. It'll make them turn off, and it it, it it's not an acknowledgement of your choices to correct the wrongs that were done in the past, right? And it's a way to just deny the next generation the agency to make it better, to change things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to help them not adopt the views that maybe your people might have about themselves, right? Oh, we're just these everyone expects us to be bigots, so screw it. Like, I guess I'm a bigot because everyone says so. Yeah, you don't want
I've
that.
seen a lot of that.
Yeah, but and you don't want it to be a religion of sorts where you have a doctrine that how you were born, the situations that you have, you need to feel bad about that, right? That now it's an innate quality to yourself that you can't mute, right? You're stuck with this thing, like a sin nature almost. You
Mm-hmm.
don't want that. And I don't want that for anybody. Um, so teaching people like the difference between guilt and shame, I think, is important. Like my
Yeah.
therapist and I just talked about this recently. Like, guilt is I did something wrong, or maybe the people before me did something wrong, and I can feel appropriately angry, frustrated,
Mm-hmm.
sad. Um, but I want to use that emotion for something productive.
Right.
Shame is I am bad, and nothing like this is part of a core part of my identity now, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I'm going to move past that. It's an unproductive, destructive set of emotions and thinking. And so I think for my fellow white people, try to be productive. Like, try to think about, now that you know better, what can you do better, right? People like to say that a lot around here, but um, not if you don't want to repeat this, then don't. Maybe some people like myself, or some people of uh, what you might say minorities, expect more of you because they view you more highly than you do yourself. So,
Spackle, did you?
yeah.
Gosh, Niddy just does a good job.
Yeah.
Niddy,
Thank you.
Niddy's religious parallels. are on point, and I wanted to say one of the things that evangelicals in America do that's very unhealthy, in my opinion. Well, I think
Hmm.
original sin is off point and very unhealthy, but and that's a whole other thing. Sally, will you please stop it? We live in an apartment building. It's every day. It's just like, oh my gosh, there's a noise. One of the things that a lot of evangelicals do that I don't think is particularly helpful is original sin, which original sin says, hey, I'm going to make a point in a second. Hey, my very nature is evil. I got born, nothing I did, and just my existence as a baby is evil. Like my very nature is evil. It's glued to me. This is who I am. And that shame factor, right? Then there's like this um sorry, this dog is driving me nuts. I'm trying to get her to hush. Um the There is this posing of virtue signaling
Hmm.
that Christians do that parallels some liberals, and it is, I'm a sinner, and they'll quote St. Paul where they go, I'm the chief of sinners. I'm so bad, but with the grace of God, I'm not. And I almost see like this, I don't know if it's just our culture, but I see that in the left sometimes where it's like, I am the chief of sinners, and the self hatred. I don't think self hatred is going to help move you forward. I
No.
don't think that um, shame that's completely weighting you down is going to help you move forward. But I do think that we should be confronted with 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 things that we've done in the past as like a culture and what we built upon. And I do think sometimes it's uncomfortable. I remember watching the movie 12 Years a Slave and I cried. I don't usually
Oh
cry in
God.
movies. I
Really? I was
cried.
seething mad. I was ready to rip all my hair out.
I just cried because I was like, how can we be this evil,
Ugh.
to each other as humans? Like, how can we? And why? Like, and I think those hard truths and mirrors are important because it teaches us to humanize people. Like, it's not a fun watch to watch the boy in the striped pajamas. The whole theater, when I saw that, I went up to LA, the whole theater was sobbing in that movie.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
the Jewish folks this time, but the whole theater is sobbing. It's not a good watch, like as far as like, oh, this is fun. But I think it's an important thing sometimes to see.
Um, you know what, Steph, I'm gonna let you go before I jump in.
Oh, you're on mute still. Gotcha.
I'm on mute still. I think it's important to remember that no matter where you sit, any injustice is not a good thing. You may not be responsible for injustice, but when you see it, you need to recognize it for what it is and be on the right side of history. And acknowledging your privilege and acknowledging whatever guilt might exist as a result of that, that redounds from that history, is immaterial as it compares to what is happening in the here and now. You're not bound by your past, by the past of what your forebears have done, but you needn't follow in their ways. You know, I just want to read this. I had hoped that the white moderate would understand that law and order exist for the purpose of establishing justice, and that when they fail in this purpose, they become the dangerously structured dams that block the flow of social progress. This follows this paragraph. I must make two honest confessions to you, my Christian and Jewish brothers. First, I must confess that over the past few years I've been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I've almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's greatest stumbling block in his stride toward freedom is not the white citizens' counselor or the Ku Klux Klanner, but the white moderate, who's more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action, who paternalistically believes that he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by a mythical concept of time, and who constantly advises the Negro to wait for a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. I mean, this
One
is
of my
something
favorite
that
speeches.
this is it's from a letter from a Birmingham jail. My brother-in-law and sister were part of that movement in that time. Not because of a sense of guilt, but because of a sense of justice. That there was something that they could do. And I think it's really incumbent upon white people to think of what we can do, rather than sitting here denying the history of the United States of America, the history of Western civilization. We should recall what all of that means. But we're not bound by it to make the same mistakes over and over again. We are not, unless we ourselves commit ourselves to a regime of oppression and a regime that is that's unwilling to not grant but accept the equality of the people around us, and to take our licks. You know, we don't make progress either for ourselves as people or for the society at large.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I actually liked what you're saying, then also what Niddy had touched on about the difference between guilt and shame, which I think Jay was saying kind of goes in with that kind of like anti-seer thing that the right is trying to, the propaganda. It, especially as it relates to like children, it's like, well, if they know about our history, they're going to feel bad. Like, okay. What a lot of people are reminding us of right now is little German children who are constantly reminded of their nation's history. Um, they're told about it. They are like, they take field trips to concentration camps, to the Holocaust Museum, constantly reminded, like, you know, this is what can happen if we forget, um, if we allow ourselves to, succumb to this level of propaganda again. And then, you have us over here who are whitewashing things and falling almost lockstep into the same thing that kind of led them down that path, which is scary.
You know, it's illegal to display the flag of the Third Reich in Germany.
I do know that. I do know that. I go back and
The
I
forth,
thought
and
flag
so,
of
but I
the
wasn't.
flag of the battle flag of the Army of Northern Virginia was in the halls of Congress on the 6th of January, being proudly, defiantly waved by the people that broke down the windows and entered the Capitol. The I call that flag the American swastika. and I stand by that. It is absolutely a symbol of oppression, of racism, of rebellion, of insurrection, of treason.
100%.
I get mad every time I see one on a truck in Ohio. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong
I
with you?
think rebellion and treason is what our country was built on. So I don't know if I'd hammer on that, but I would hammer on the
I would.
facade. The facade is, well, hang on. The facade is it's about state rights, right? That was the facade.
Sure.
But it wasn't about that. It was about economy, keeping it how it was, cheap labor. That's what it was about. It was about hatred, like you say. It is like the swastika. I'm all for getting rid of it. Um, but yeah, I don't know.
Um, God, it's so hard. I mean, to have a First Amendment the way, you know, I, I don't think it will ever be, but like, I just, for what it did to our country, I'm all for flag burning. But it, it's a, yeah, I mean, it's a treasonous flag. I don't understand how a country stands and allows any of its inhabitants to wave a treason flag, whether it's in the right of free speech or not. I'm like, there,
No,
you can find so many other symbols. Like,
right.
if you want to wave a Nazi flag, it's a little weird. But thanks for, clarifying who you are. But a Confederate flag on U.S. soil, I can't justify it. I really can't.
Well,
I used to see that as a treason flag, and I'm talking to a lot of other Black Americans now, where anytime they see an American flag, they're beginning to look at it the same way, just from the way that the Trumpsters are using it.
Well, yeah, I mean the Panthers in the '60s sort of viewed the Stars and Stripes as a flag of the oppressor, very 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 definitely. They
And it's
did
not
view it that
untrue.
way.
But we're confused as a nation, I think, because we rebelled against the British. We said, we're our own thing. Ha ha, don't tread on me. Ha ha. And we're built on that, right?
Hmm.
As well as all other things.
The
And with
thing,
that attitude, I think they are sort of conflating these attitudes together, right? I don't know if that makes sense.
the thing that really pissed off the revolutionary, the rebellious Americans at the time, was that they were being denied their rights as Englishmen. I mean, the focus of their rebellion was that their rights as Englishmen were being revoked by not having representation in Parliament, and by not having their ear, having their voice heard by the mother country. I mean, if you read the Declaration of Independence carefully, that's what they basically say.
Yeah.
hmm.
Yeah, I guess my thought is that if you bring up that it's a treasonous flag, I don't think it changed hearts and minds either. I agree that it is. Like, why are we waving this? It's kind of silly. You lost. Did you know you lost? but 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 I guess what I'm saying is we're a country that prides ourselves on giving the FU to England. Like I don't know. Like it's so it makes it confusing. I think in a way. Um,
Well, had we lost, I imagine the Stars and Stripes would be viewed as a flag of treason as well. But
Right.
we didn't
maybe.
Well,
lose. We
so
did. We actually did achieve independence from Great Britain, and I suspect that had the Confederates managed to fight us to a truce, we'd be two countries. The problem is that we are in fact still two countries with two different ideologies,
I think
and
we're more than two.
we're a multitude of countries. That's true, but that the Confederate flag, the battle flag, the Army of Northern Virginia, is a symbol that represents to that represents a rebellion against the notion of equality of races that stands for white supremacy. Always has. and to see people waving it the entire time. And we never really finished Reconstruction. Reconstruction could have been Truth and Reconciliation, could have been denazification. We didn't accomplish that because it wasn't politically expedient for the white men in power in the late 1800s to actually finish the job, to expunge that stuff. I mean, there were black senators and congressmen during Reconstruction. They were all kicked out when Jim
Yeah.
Crow came back in. So it was a deliberate program to
Yeah.
reinstitute a political system based on white supremacy throughout the South. And it took until the 1950s. It took until World War II, when black folk are coming back from Europe and Asia with, after having served in not one but two world wars. And there was a tremendous amount of you might call it race mixing, I guess, or Italians served, all sorts of people served in the army. The army was the most democratic institution, albeit segregated. It wasn't desegregated until Harry Truman did it in 1949. I mean,
Jeez.
all of this is recent history. A lot of it is within my lifetime.
Yeah, there's enough people to be able to remember this, like that they shouldn't be as easily duped into this narrative
Yeah,
that
Oh
yeah.
are.
man, I remember finding this piece of uh, social justice propaganda from the '60s. That's literally called "Don't Be Duped." You should watch it sometime. It's about like, what do you do when you see the Nazi preacher on the side of the road, right? In your town. And it's like, don't get duped by this stuff, man.
Wait, what?
Uh
When? How old is that video?
oh man, let me find it.
Because it sounds like one of those old, like 1950s videos.
Yeah, maybe it was the 50s.
Yeah,
Um
gosh, the 50s videos, the social videos are really funny and
oh,
terrible at
it's
the same
Don't Be a
time.
Sucker.
Right.
There we go.
Oh,
They're
do you
like,
want
this
to?
is a
Do you want to play it?
homosexual. I'm like, oh my God.
It's 1942 to 1947,
Did you want to
actually.
play
So
it?
this was in the middle of the war. Is that Creative Commons now? Is it? It won't get you a copyright, I don't
It might
think, because it's
say,
over 50 years.
It does it say?
I've been able to not get copyrights from old newsreels and stuff like that so far.
Probably not. But anyway, I was actually going to go back to a point about
Hmm.
uh, why we are a country that has Confederate and Nazi flags flying around. It's the same reason that we want this to be a country where we can fly a Black Lives Matter or LGBTQIA flag around. Because some, a majority could consider one of those flags rebellious, right? And that should be something. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that could be viewed as a movement that needs to be stifled down because it represents something
Well,
evil
that's
or
the rhetoric,
reprehensible.
right?
Yeah,
Everybody's
it's the
Antifa,
rhetoric, but
everybody's, yeah, burning down places. Everybody.
it's the rhetoric and it sucks. But I don't want to live in a place where we would potentially lose that kind of freedom, right? To say, no, we see this as an injustice, everyone. Wake up. Right? But to the like, white Christian nationalists, like, we see the injustice of blacks existing. Like shit. Like what do you do then? I don't know. It's dumb. I don't think I don't agree with it obviously, but
I it right. I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting tactic too. So they're trying to miseducate the
mhm.
right, which is, I guess they're just hoping that they'll be dead before this like blows up in their face. Because when you look at the civil rights era marches, like all the white people, when they were asked, "Why are you doing this? Why do you care?" all of them were said, like, I was told that this was, a land of opportunity and everybody had, the same rights and the same privileges and yada yada yada, and they lied. There's like this whole groups of people that are being disadvantaged, and you know you kept this from us. You intentionally lied to us. We're pissed off, and we want them to have the same rights and privileges that we have. And they fought back. So, I mean, a lot of the things that we gained were only because, these, young white kids like learned the truth and jumped into the fight with us. So, like, why? I don't know. I don't know why I'm surprised. Like everybody that is throwing money at Congress on the Hill is only thinking about next quarter's profits. So to say, oh well, in 20 years, somebody might call me on my bullshit. Well, I'm 80, so you know why would I care about that?
Well, you know, the white America started paying attention when their kids were getting sick, getting dogs sicked on them and fire hoses trained on them while they were in Birmingham or in
Mm-hmm.
Selma or in, you know, uh, Ron Goldman getting killed in Mississippi. And you know what struck me today actually is maybe this is off, but Ronald Reagan started his presidential campaign uh, his first time around when he ran against Carter. Um, he started his campaign in Philadelphia, Mississippi, where Goldman, Edgar Evers, all those the four kids were
Mm-hmm.
killed by segregationists. And that fact wasn't lost on a lot of people.
Yeah.
And today, Donald Trump kicked off his first rally of his campaign in Waco,
Yeah.
Texas.
Oof.
Fact that a lot of liberals have been bringing up a lot this week. um, yeah, and God, Reagan, I doesn't get enough credit for being such an evil fucking racist. I I mean, it was bad. Like I had again, I was born like when he was like walking into office. Like I was being born. But like, and so I grew up upper middle class. Let's say upper middle. I mean, yeah, probably for the 80s, we were pretty well off. And all I heard was the rhetoric growing up. But looking back, I mean, not even like how all of his policies has just destroyed everything that came after him. But like the things that he was doing to further target African Americans in particular, but even like with the apartheid, like long after other countries were like, okay, I guess we'll, back off of this. He was like even like down to the last lone survivor. Like, no, no, we must punish. There's black people over there that haven't been punished sufficiently for my taste. Just like holy shit, this man. And he's like still Republican. I guess until Trump was like Republican Jesus. Says a lot.
This
Crazy.
shit's not new. I mean,
No.
most of the the people that are in control of the party now are John Birch Society people. They're
Yeah.
John Birch Society types. They're
Yeah.
from the late 50s, early 60s. These are the people that were uh, George Wallace Democrats. Segregation now, segregation forever. These people are. That's who they are.
No, they and yeah, when
They are.
they said segregation forever, they meant it. They never stopped fighting for it. I had, I mean, which I knew, but like it, actually talking to people right now and like even like I had a, it's on my channel. I think it was my last video. It was a talk I had with P Town, and I can't remember if I cut the part out or not, but um, it really horrified me when he was talking about, well, wouldn't it be nice if women didn't have to work anymore? And I'm like, you have no fucking idea what you're talking about. And he was like, no, no, women, they can, you can finally stay home with the babies and it'll
Be
bring up
dependent.
wages for men.
Barefoot, pregnant, chained to the stove.
Dependent, probably with an abuser, stuck. Have a nice day.
But like, I'm sure in his mind, all of this just works out, and it's just, it's these things that are being said to the poor white guy. And I'm not saying he's poor. I have no idea um, what his socioeconomic status is or how much money he brings in, yada yada. I hope he's happy. I really do. But he's listening to rhetoric aimed at poor white guys. That I can say. Because this is what they're saying to them. It's like, oh, are you poor? Do you not have a job? Do you have a job and it's not bringing in the money you want? Well, we should just kick out all the fucking women.
Yeah, the rhetoric.
That way there will be fewer people in jobs, and the workers will have bargaining power, and they'll have no choice but to give you more money to keep it. Like, I'm
Uh,
like, take a goddamn economics class. Like, this is not, or a history class. But like, to Stephanie's point, real quick, and I'll shut up. Like the whole, like, I mean, it's not just that. Like, there's so many fucking societies out there that are aimed at pushing this propaganda into certain parts of the country. I mean, pretty much all right wingers. Um, and it's this, we're going to get back to the good old days when, remember when, men were king of the household, and women did what we told them to do, and da 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 da. We can have all that back if you stand with us to punish the women, the minorities, the trans people, the gays. Like, yeah, I'm just like, and they just don't see it. It's just like him talk, that conversation where he's just like, it would be so wonderful, and I'm like,
well, it's terrifying.
it's terrifying.
Um,
Yep.
There was a time when we used to make fun of Nazis. Once upon a time,
I
I could
remember like
play.
5 years ago. It's like,
I could play Spike Jones right now.
I
I
don't
remember
think
like
making
5 years
fun of
ago when, like,
Nazis
if I
is
met a
bad.
Nazi, I should punch him in the face. Like, that
Yeah,
was
that
just the
too.
socially acceptable thing to do if you met a Nazi. And now we have tiki torch burning, Nazi flag holding, how Hitler saluting fucking Nazis in the U.S. Capitol.
I want to. I got a little
Wadsworth,
pet peeve.
Ohio.
I got a little pet peeve that I want to get out there. It's like I'm old. Right? There are many situations when people will say to me, "Well, we just have to wait until these people die, and then everything will be golden." And I'd like to remind y'all, Matt Walsh is in his 20s.
Matt Walsh,
You
his
need to pay
hero.
attention to the sons of bitches who are fucking y'all up.
Look
Yeah,
at look
they're
at
not
Jordan
going away.
Peterson's daughter, Michaela. Look at
You've
Oh
her.
got to
God.
look at
Yeah.
the guy who's in prison in Romania. It's this
Yeah, what's
guy's
his
in his
name?
early
Tate.
Tate,
Andrew
Andrew
third.
Tate.
Yeah,
Tate.
Andrew Tate.
He has
He's in
influenced
his
a lot of men.
30s.
A-hole
He's
taint.
influenced so many kids
There's a whole group of them now
talking
that are
talking this
influencers.
garbage, and y'all need to pay attention to those people because it's not the old white dudes. Yes,
They're
they're a
not dying out.
problem.
They're
They're
spawning.
they're a problem. But the
Pearl.
problem is that uh, this ideology is perennial. It's been instilled in people of your generation, the generation just behind me. It's not just one generation. This is a perennial problem. Hatred is something that is taught and passed on, and the people that will be leading the charge, people that are leading the charge right now. I mean, sure, there's Donald Trump. There's also Marjorie Taylor Greene. There's also Lauren Boebert. There's also Matt Walsh. There's also Andrew Tate. There's also you can
Matt Gates. Like,
Matt
Avenged
Gates.
hero. Well,
There's
he's not that
also
young.
there are all these people that are carrying it on, and they've got tons of followers, tons of people who they've got way more subbies than I do, you do, a whole bunch of people on YouTube or on TikTok or here or there. I mean, admittedly, Jordan Peterson is like everybody's poster child, and but even Jordan Peterson's younger than I am. I'm just, it's like you can't blame this on a generational thing because there were people
no,
fighting this shit in my generation, and we thought we'd made strides. We did,
you
to
did.
be honest. We
Yeah,
did.
Can I?
We won a lot of battles, but we didn't win the war. And what is critical is to realize that this struggle isn't gonna end in the passing of a generation.
yeah.
It's going to end the when the ideas of hatred, the ideas of bigotry, the ideas of exclusion, the ideas of patriarchy, the ideas of supremacy are have been challenged sufficiently to be put under control.
I have some
It's
thoughts.
out of the
Yeah.
box right now, and it's fucking scary. When you've
Yeah.
got 50% of trans children in the United States have lost the ability to access care. They have either lost now or are in danger of losing access to care. 50%. That's a fact. It's a fact on the ground. And it won't stop with them. It's important to remember that when you have laws being passed in Florida about what books can be read in schools, it's important to remember that on May the 10th, 100 years ago, 1933, well, not May the 10th, 1930, nearly 100 years ago.
Burn those books, baby. Just kidding.
The
Like, but
the
that
the
that happened.
the Nazis wound up going into the Institute for Sexual Research in Berlin, hauling out the library, burning the books in the street, and saving the patient records so that those people could be rounded up.
Hmm. Terrifying.
It is terrifying. It's very terrifying.
It's so important though to know history. I think you hit on something
Yes.
that I think might be wrong. Like one of the things that's wrong. I see a lot of rhetoric on the left, a lot of rhetoric on the right. Memes, and no receipts. If we can keep putting receipts and less memeing, I think that helps a lot because the Shapiros or the Michaelas or the Tates, the way to fight them, you're not going to win them over. But these kids that are getting duped by them,
Mm-hmm.
using Niddy's phrase, don't get duped. Those kids that are getting duped, um, sometimes if you have receipts as opposed to memes, as opposed to catchphrases, um, that can help a lot. But it is hard right now. I do think that there's something weird that's happened where people are like, I don't care about history. Uh, no, that was not, the 60s were not that long ago. Like, not really that long ago, guys. Like, to act like, this isn't a thing anymore, throw it away. And I don't know, I'm kind of afraid of the Zoomers a little bit because I feel like they're a little bit like, what is truth? Like the pilot, and I think they grew up. See, we didn't grow up with the memes. We didn't grow up, well, I didn't grow up with the internet until like, it came up, at what, late 80s, 90s. And I was like, oh, what's this? It's a CD-ROM. It's the newest technology, and then you're like, whoa. But the way it is now, it's rhetoric, rhetoric, rhetoric. It's just rhetoric, propaganda wars. And what's different now than World War II is there were propaganda wars going crazy. So the Nazis were really good at it. Is it's happening so fast. It's within 2 weeks. It's across the country.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Sure.
I mean, I was like, I forgot where we were. Trying to bring it back around. All right.
Well,
So-
here's a question for you. I'll throw out a name. Candace Owens.
Oh, no, she's yeah, no.
No, I mean
0 out of
there
10.
are
Would not
willing
recommend.
tools. There are willing tools for the power structure out there.
I mean, Candace Owens is a Ben Shapiro, is a Blair White, is a useful idiot. There are people who will clearly do anything for money. It's a lot of money. I remember her throwing a tantrum because Facebook kicked her off, and like the numbers that she was pulling in, I can't remember if it was $1 million a week or $1 million a month, but like I could see somebody being furious over that, and just I mean, I don't know. I mean, to be willing to sell out an entire race of people, be it yours or anyone's, for money is I really don't get it. I really don't get it. But I don't know. She's a Muppet, and I know she sees it, and she just I don't know. She really doesn't think it'll ever come back to bite her in the ass in some kind of way.
She's wrong.
There's
She
a
is
young woman too. What's
wrong.
her name? I cannot think of her name. She wears a lot of button-up shirts. It's not Candace Owens. Someone I can't remember her name.
She's on the right. That could be any of them.
She's a right. Yeah, I think she was raised by white parents, and she's another spokesperson. And
Oh,
then
that
anytime,
new chick on the PragerU.
yes.
Oh God, yeah, I saw.
I know who you're
that.
talking about. I was thinking it.
Can't think of her
I don't know.
name.
We've been talking to a couple of people about debunking videos, and I'm like, if I ever did any debunking videos, it would be on her.
Yeah.
Go for it.
It's so much work. 'Cause, like Spackle said, I want to bring receipts. I don't want to just be like, no, she's wrong. This is right. Like you really have to back up your shit. And I was talking to my daughter earlier. It's like people will present facts, but they'll distort the facts to where it looks like they're in their favor. So
They'll read like the abstract of a paper and quote like 3 lines of that rather than actually read the whole thing and the conclusion. Yeah,
but I mean,
like
even
young
just
Earth
like,
creationists do.
yeah, I was thinking of that for young Earth creationists are bad for that. But even on the right, you'll see them. It's like, well, see, black people are disproportionately represented in prisons. Therefore, black skin is evil. Like,
What?
yeah, no, yeah, that this is what they do. So I'm just like, okay, they're already coming with facts. So to say, okay, this is the way you look at it takes more work, and I'm just like,
Well,
I have a
there's
day job.
there in debate. There is actually a known thing of lying by statistics,
Yeah.
and in race realism. Aha, lovely. Race realism is basically Nazis, but like they want to say that they're not. And they'll go, well, I'm just saying that, white people are just more intelligent than black people, and Asians are more intelligent and good at math than white people. It's just a fact. Look at the statistics.
Yeah. Look at the IQ test. Ashkenazi Jews just,
And they'll
that's
throw out
clearly why
statistics.
they're trying to rule the world because, they're just off the chart smart. And black people, I don't know why we, allow them out of zoos because they're just off the charts dumb. And, it's don't blame me. Look at the IQ test. And yeah, so this is the kind of shit I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's lying by statistics. It's really a thing because they're taking a what seems like something that's backing their facts, but not actually really realizing the thought behind it. So the statistics that they could be citing is something more about like, our educational system failing basically certain areas and certain demographics, but they will take it as like, look at these dumbasses. Like,
Yeah,
no, it's
yeah.
not that. It's not that. Like, we literally have suck schools in minority areas in my city in liberal San Diego. Well, we're
Hmm.
we're a little purplish here, but there are cities or there's a big difference from, I'll just name a school, Valhalla High School. Valhalla has, all these luxuries and all these rich kids. And then you go over to uh, Goss Hoover High School, and it's a hot mess. And the teachers have no time or patience for anybody, no tolerance, and no money is going into the school at all.
Yeah, yeah.
And they go, well, look at these people, and it's like we're not investing. We're not investing in people. We're investing in the
Right,
rich kids.
right. Yeah, because they need it so much.
Isn't that part of redlining? Isn't that actually part of it? Is what we're doing with the property taxes?
Yeah, yeah. It was all part and parcel.
Yeah.
But so I know Stephanie, your baby is kind of talking about allyship, and I know which is I think right now the trans community, it feels like what they're doing to the trans community is what they would like to do to the black and Hispanic communities, and they
Yes.
can't because of these goddamn laws.
Yep.
So
Damn.
they'll just take their ire out any way they can, and you kind of got caught in the crosshairs because it's not a big enough group to do anything for themselves without like just a major movement from a bunch of other people. And I know that for the longest time it's just like, we're not trying to rock the boat, we just want to live our lives, like normal people, because we thought we were. um and now it's kind of like scrambling to educate and to find the people, the allies that you didn't know you had. And there was a big movement, I think, in like the 80s or 90s that being racist is bad. I don't know how Reagan allowed that, but we do. I know that for the black community, at least, we do kind of still have that in our back pocket, to where like actual racists won't admit to being one because racist equals bad person. What are things that you do when you're looking for allies, when you're trying to get people to see past their biases?
Is that the Stephanie?
Yeah.
Oh, it's hard. It's really hard. It, it it's hard for it's hard for a community that makes up. I'd say community quite loosely.
Yeah,
Two tenths
same.
of a percent.
Same.
0.2% of the population is a pretty small percentage of the population, and trans people are united by one. It's much like the atheist community. We're united by one particular trait.
Right.
There's a tremendous diversity of opinion, a tremendous diversity of life experience. Uh, there are there are people like myself who transitioned ages ago, and then there are people that are sort of coming into it in their good time as it all things change because of cultural milieu. The the thing about the trans community is we basically just want to be left alone. Leave us the hell alone. And the difficulty right now is that the the legislation that's being proposed, unlike the civil rights movement, these are pieces of legislation that are taking away rights we already have.
Right.
They're enshrining into law things that I have done for years.
Yep.
That that with no trouble, bothering absolutely no one. And up until day before yesterday, World Athletics would have let me compete. I'm not. I'm track and field is not my game, but but I could have competed without any trouble. These are things that are being taken away when it has never been a problem. Being trans has never been a problem, except in some people's minds. So, how do you find allies, or how do I seek to find allies in the discourse at the moment? By trying to explain this. It's like, what is the problem here? Is there a problem? What problem are you trying to solve? If the problem you're trying to solve is my existence, then I don't know what to do about that. If you're bound and determined to wipe me and people like me off the face of the earth, I don't know how to talk about that. Because what you are talking about is erasing people's existence. Now you can't, you can talk about that if you really want to get a whole bunch of pushback, like advocating for, say, eliminating a category of people of a certain race or religion. I mean, that happened 90 years ago. And, and it happened to start, interestingly enough, it happened to start with the very same people that are being targeted right now. So keep your eyes open. I mean, all I can do at this point in time, I can speak for myself. And trans people are trying to tell you all, they're coming for you. This is the same fucking playbook.
Yeah.
Yep. Women's rights, as far as
Women's,
reproductive,
and
they've
they're
already
tied
had it.
together,
Yep.
bound together at the hip. It's a question of bodily autonomy, and
Yep.
and the curious thing in this whole discourse is that you never, especially in terms of athletics, you never hear trans men referred to. It's always trans women.
Yes.
It's misogyny.
Well, it is, but it's also it's part of their rhetoric, right? They're like, we must protect cis het women
Yeah.
from erasure. And we are the victims.
Misogyny.
Yeah.
It's white knighting.
Yes, thank you. There you go.
It's the women's is too weak. We need to protect them from the men's invading their space.
The guys that are like, I'll punch a person with a beard in the bathroom. Those guys.
Yeah, that don't exist. I mean, the guy with the beard in the bathroom is Dr. Ben.
Yeah. I hear this.
Yeah, that's my point. It's like,
a lot. Yeah.
Where do you want Buck Angel to take a piss? Even though Buck Angel is a horrible human being, and very much Candy-O, very much Candace Owens. Where do you want him to take a piss? I mean, the guy's fucking racked and got a huge beard, and he looks like he's, you know,
So I have a question for you, and
oh fuck.
I oh oh sorry. I consider myself an ally, um, and I'm very afraid of what's happening. To be honest, like I think there's a massive witch hunt going. But what they're doing is they're toting kind of really unusual one-off situations. So, for instance, someone who identifies as non-binary on TikTok's been under fire quite a bit. That person goes by they. They posed. They are penis having. They posed with tampons, and I gotta say, even I don't really like that very much. Like I have to say, like if you aren't bleeding, don't don't do that.
Probably don't need one.
Yeah, and so for me, people are saying, well, that's transphobic. No, that's just reality. If you're not bleeding and you don't have a uterus, fuck off. And I'm not a turf. I'm not a turf. I swear to God. But it's just the fact.
Well,
And so that's how I
What?
feel about it.
Wait, what am
just
I
a,
missing? I didn't see this TikTok. So
Mm.
there was someone who was
Used for
assigned male.
advertisement.
They
Yeah.
were assigned male at birth,
No, they were. Yeah, they're signed male at birth. They
and
identify as they, non-binary. They've been
and they went on
under.
TikTok with
They're
tampons.
they were picked out to advertise tampons.
well, that's a poor choice.
Right. And so
For
it's caused a
real.
lot of rage. And I'm not enraged like I feel threatened, but I am one of those people that's like, this is not helping. I don't
Yeah,
think it's
well,
helping.
yeah, I'd agree with that.
Well, it tiptoes into the realm of the video I just got finished doing on Skeptic Haven. It sounds like queer baiting to me. It's like, well, what the hell's the point of
Like
that? You know,
like
it's
I
like you
don't
don't need that. I mean, there's, you know, uh, Anna Kasparian got into deep shit by saying, "Don't call me a uterus haver," blah 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 blah, on Twitter,
Mm.
and just like nobody's
Nobody.
calling you that,
Yeah.
but nobody's calling you that in the first place. And the reason that that language is being used at all is because people have become aware of the fact that trans men and non-binary people exist, and they happen to have uteruses. They can get pregnant. They require obstetric services, and so and yet you don't want to be, if you're in the medical profession and someone comes to you with a medical need, you don't want to be in the position of making them feel like shit by calling them something that they aren't. So you can find something that you can call them that they are. They have a uterus. They have they have ovaries. They might have fibroids. It, but they're not women.
well,
Right.
I had
Right. Like,
somebody
what
in
if I had ova
person.
testes? What would you do then? Like,
So you know it's a like get over that.
I had somebody in person. Um, it was really, really weird. They called me um vagina having, and I said I'm a woman. I said don't dehumanize me. Like if
Yeah,
I lose my uterus, I don't cease to be a woman. And just like
exactly.
a trans person like comes to me, I don't know if I'm using the proper terminology. Sorry. Like some people go, don't use that word.
That's fine.
If somebody comes to me and they are penis having and they self-describe as a woman, I call them a woman, and that's everyday vernacular. I think that's respect. I call Stephanie a woman.
Right.
Nobody should be
Um,
broken down to their body parts. I mean
Sure.
that is offensive, and I do take, you know, if that's Anna's objection, I do take that seriously, and I don't want to be broken down that way either.
Right. I mean,
I'm a woman, you
we
know.
certainly don't want to start talking about them as the breeders.
Yeah, you
You
know,
know.
look,
exactly. I mean, you don't want to get into that stuff, and and it's all that's all crazy. But you know, it's just tacky as fuck to have someone who uh, is not subject to menstruating. It's like it'd be like having me who has a vagina and all of that, have the accoutrement, but I'm 69 years old. Any other 69-year-old woman is not necessarily going to hold around a tampon.
Right. Well,
It ain't a thing.
yeah, I would
It
look
ain't
at
a thing
any.
no more, babe. You know,
I
that's
would look
not
at
the way
any
it
69-year-old woman the same way I would look at, a non-binary person with tampons. If you're trying to sell a thing, It should be like, hey, this person I like uses this product. Um, Now it makes me want to use said product. But in absence of that, this person I like is holding this product. What am I as a consumer to take from that?
I don't know. It's
Is it
about,
relatable? I mean, it's like
Right.
usually you just want to just like, is this person relatable? Well, no, not really, because then you know
and there
Yeah.
has been an
They can't put
influx.
that anywhere. Well, they can, but it's not going to help.
Again, it's, you know how the loudest, squeakiest wheels get all the attention, and then like the people that are looking for reasons to attack trans folks are like, say what I mean, and they're just like, ah,
yeah.
like they'll tote that out, or they'll tote the person that makes a video and goes, I have periods just like you, and you're like, well, you might have hormones and mood swings. I bet that's a thing. Like, yeah, but do you know the shame of bleeding all over yourself in school and having someone make fun of you? Do you know that, and how much anxiety that is?
I felt so bad for my
Yeah.
girlfriends when that
Yeah.
happened because I remember junior high school quite well, and I
Oh,
remember I had
flashbacks.
most of my friends were girls, and I remember how.
It's mortifying.
Uh,
Yeah. So for me, I want to be an ally. Um, and I love my trans friends. I acknowledge their pronouns, and I don't go, oh, well, you're some other person that's not quite woman, and you're in just a different category. I actually believe that like it's just a matter of your body parts aren't aligning with your conception of who you are and how you understand your true self. And when it's out of line, I believe that can happen. Yeah, absolutely. And so I don't think people are lesser women, but I see it as different experiences. My
Right.
experience as a non mother,
no question.
I'm 42, I'm not going to have kids. I've had miscarriages. I've been pregnant before, but I don't have kids. I don't know what it's like on that very experiential level. And that's a type of knowledge. And that's a type of experience that I don't have. I don't feel like it doesn't make me a woman, right? Like I'm
Right.
still a woman. I just have a different set of experiences. And like I feel like trans women have a different set of experiences. I have been
We do.
told I'm a turf. I don't think I'm a turf. I don't appreciate that term. I am not threatened by trans women at all. I
I
just want understanding, and I don't want to make things worse by people saying outlandish things that don't make sense.
I think that the key to allyship, no matter whether it's trans people or people of a different race, different religion, or different anything. If you want to be an ally to any marginalized group, first thing is listen to the real concerns that a member or members of that group have. Listen carefully to what they're saying and speak with them, not for them. Don't walk into a conversation and say, well, don't don't do what dumbass Pine Creek Doug
All talk
says.
to
Well,
skeptical
I know this
needs to
trans
go.
woman and she agrees with me. It's like what
Oh
the
Lord,
fuck.
like McRae does that all the time. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, don't be like Steve either.
yeah,
It's
don't
just,
don't don't
that's sound advice.
don't be like Steve. Don't be
Steve
like Doug.
Steve said, and I quote, this is a real quote, I helped start the trans community on YouTube. End quote. I
You
said,
bet.
Nadia Chambers had her own chat going for years. You showed up like 3 years later, and we were kind enough to give you a seat. That was your involvement.
So speak with the people that you're wanting to be an ally with, that you're wanting to support. Speak with them, not for them. Don't be going out taking lectures about the trans experience because the trans experience is a very very different experience, whether you're a trans man or a trans woman, and it within the trans community, lots of people have different experiences.
Yeah.
And everybody's story is different. Everybody's voyage is different. It's not a roadmap. It's not like, okay, you need to have You need to have known that you were trans since the age of 3.5. And some people can attest to that, and some people can demonstrate that that is in fact the case. But not everybody can, and not everybody will. Not everybody has that experience. But there's there are gradations, and you just listen to people and speak with them, not for them.
Stephanie, I think we could have long, lengthy conversations about this, but
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I appreciate you very much.
All right.
But I think that goes. I think that goes for white people who want to be allies, like
Right.
to 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 black liberation and justice for black people. I know that's where my sister lay. I know that's where my brother-in-law lay
Yeah.
when they were in the South, putting their lives on the line with black people, with their friends. They weren't there to they weren't there to pretend to to take on the mantle of life experience that their friends had had. They were there to support them in their effort to achieve justice. And I think that's where the difference lies. And that's the difference between someone who is a true ally and someone who is posing. Because it's no good in this struggle right now, my struggle right now, or the struggle to turn back the tide of animus towards trans people. It's no good to say I have your back when you don't happen to notice the firing squad that's in front of me and the wall that actually does have my back. I mean, take do something about the people that put me up against the wall and are taking aim.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Just real quick. Somebody mentioned Pine Creek, so I have to do the obligatory fuck Doug. But Nitty,
Oh, I missed out on whatever that is, but I never really liked them
Oh,
anyway, so there's that.
no.
we can
Well,
explain it to you another
oh
time.
yes. Oh yes. We're not gonna fuck up the stream with it. Just fuck that guy. Anyways, Nitty, you've been quiet for a very long time, and I think this is a good time to pull you in. I know
Sure.
that you've taken a bit of a bruising for your, I don't know, I guess your allyship has been in question a little bit in this year.
Oh.
um, because of your association, I think, with Doug and
Oh,
Tux.
okay. Yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Um,
By the way, I still don't understand the whole tux thing, but that's because I'm ignorant.
Uh,
That's okay. We don't need to get into it.
um,
yeah, need to.
anyway, go on. Do you have a specific question?
Yes. What do you see your role as an ally? Because I know that I watched so Jay did a stream and he was upset at you, and then your initial stream was, I feel like I'm being, you know, forced to act a certain way, and then you came
Oh,
around.
okay. Mhm.
But I know
Mhm.
that there are men that feel both ways, the way where it's just like, well, I'm going to be who I am, and if you don't like it, fuck you. And then there are other people who are like, I want to live, I want to be the kind of person that I want to see in the world. Can you kind of walk, like, and as it relates to allyship, can you kind of walk me through, like, the mental process there, why you came to where you are now, and what you see as your role
Okay.
as you interact with, I guess, marginalized groups?
I think where I want to start is
Yeah.
the idea of uh, what I was going through was in part about how I now intertwine accountability with your social media platforms and allyship. that has changed, right, for me,
Mm-hmm.
where I now see that I don't segregate my private interactions with a person from their platform, because running your platform takes a substantial amount of time. It conveys what you really think. Despite how you might act in private in, minimal situations, there's a degree to which I need to hold you accountable for the things that you're going to say in public, the information that you're going to put out there, the ways in which you will talk about issues and represent people. And if you misrepresent people, if you misrepresent their position, if you are not in favor of justice for these people and you kind of straw man or just don't want to be educated about some issue, and you openly say that on your platform, you go, "Oh, I won't read a book. I won't listen to so and so. I won't watch that video." Right? This is my take, and fuck you for disagreeing with me. I don't want to learn or change. Well, then what am I doing being friends with you? Because you're not really an ally to anyone at that point, and you're making me not one. Because what am I gonna stand behind that? No, no. Like, and I think um, that's where I was like, okay, if I had 18,000 subscribers, right,
Mm-hmm.
and I was putting some shit out there that was hurting, that could really hurt people, or get people to think ill, or not represent a person group, or just show that I want to stay ignorant on a very important issue. And people around me are like, hey, can you quit being ignorant? Hey, do you realize that what you're saying could really lead to hurting people? Or I think you're being a little too charitable to this hate group. Like, if people were telling me that and I'm like, la 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 la, I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing, there's something wrong with me, right? Yeah, so and doesn't matter like how many times I kiss my kids goodnight and make sure they got their college paid for or some shit. Like that's nice for them, but there's 18,000 people who are being personally affected at some level by the stuff that I'm putting and more. Cuz who
Yeah.
knows how many views like controversial streams get, right?
God.
And so like I think that people that do that uh, and know that that's what they could be doing even uh, I need to be more accountable to my level of support and confidence in people like that. And that's what changed for me, right? I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, like I get really mad at Matt Walsh's, I get really mad at Jordan Peterson's, and how long before a Doug becomes a Jordan Peterson? Like, do I want to play that game? No. Like, I'm done playing that game. Like, and so I thought it was important to turn that around, rethink this, and be like, yeah, I need to adjust my association here because I want this person to be accountable for the views that they put forth or the ways they represent things and their unwillingness to be educated. Like you've seen it with the trans stuff. I'm like, watch Forrest Valkai's video on the biology and spectrum of sexuality. Nope,
Mm-hmm.
don't want to do that. Dr. Kip comes on. It's like, hey, here's the Hebrew. Here's why this position's nuanced, and like I think there's some merit to it. Oh, I wasn't paying attention. What the fuck, man? Like, yeah, you've been doing this for how long, and then this is how you're gonna start to act? I mean, come on. So,
I think he's always been sloppy. I mean, if
yeah. But and then I
as
guess,
somebody that's a God believer, I've always found him uncharitable, sloppy, unfair, and ridiculous. But that's
but
just me.
yeah, and then I guess like the last part, like how do I view myself? Um, for people who might be just new to me, who watch you, don't watch me, um, I I want to support you. Like if you have something really important, like I greatly appreciate being on the stream, being able to convey my experience as a white person. Um, like I want to support you and elevate your voices, right? And if you want to come to my channel and say like, stuff about your experience with religion or the way that you had to deal with it growing up and how that shaped your American or Western life experience, please, I want to elevate your voice, especially on YouTube or Twitter, whatever. Um, in my real life, I want my kids to be my daughter currently goes to in like a inner city school, a charter school, and it's really good for her because in this regard because she's one of four white children in her classroom.
Oh, wow.
um so she's definitely getting a lot of experience and culture and things that are being said that she would not hear in the Christian school that she could be going to. And my wife wants to be a substantial part of that community as well. And so I support her and our financial efforts toward this school. Um, and so I want to be an asset to people uh, who lack the privileges that I have. And not because I feel sorry, but because I want to lift their lives up. Um, so that's how I view myself in my role in helping people for now, and then for people like uh, my trans father, it's like, I'm gonna be on here vocal about like it's really messed up. That's what could be happening to my own father. This is what you're saying about my own father. Like, do you want to be saying this to someone like me? Like,
Right.
um, especially like with the religious stuff, and showing people that like a prayer I used to pray as a Christian, right? I
Mhm.
hope Jesus, you come into this person's life, and they just wake up and say, "I'm a man now." Right? All my preferences are different now. I got the neuralizer, boop, like, I got the Holy Spirit and everything is different now.
I want you to know that doesn't happen.
Oh, I used to pray that way, so sorry. But yes, it
Yeah.
also doesn't happen. But that's just as
I tried to pray the
absurd.
pie away. I did.
Yeah, it's just as absurd as me praying, Lord Jesus, I hope Kenny becomes gay tomorrow. Like what, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
how
What?
rude. And like Kenny, certain people know who Kenny is, but
Is that the Reasons to Believe guy?
no, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Okay, because that guy defended uh, Smokey Saint sleeping with a 13-year-old,
Oh
and that
gosh.
guy's a problem.
But it's like it would be as like evil and gross as if I just got on here right now. It's like, hey, Lord Jesus, I pray that Maya's white tomorrow. Like you'd be like, what the fuck?
I
I
pray
just
that your
want to
whole
cheer.
identity just changes.
Disintegrates before your
Yeah.
eyes. Yeah,
Right.
for no other reason that I just can't see you any other way, or
You know,
because my God says so. Like, ugh, gross, right?
you should ask these Christians too. Like, sometimes I wonder if they think these things, because one of the things that they're running into is they act like, when you're in heaven, you have this renewing of the mind and you're so different. And now you see things as God sees it. And ta-da! Like boom, you're just like, and my question is, are you a whole new, are you you anymore?
Yeah, I
No.
actually have discussed that on my channel a number of different ways or different times, like the Thesean ship of Theseus paradox of heavenly identity and what really makes you you, and if those things are muted by whatever God's reprogramming is that like because there's not what race in heaven presumably either.
There's a really disgusting quote, and I'm gonna
Or
probably
if
not
there
say
is,
word
it's
for
just
word,
weird. I don't know.
but Jonathan Edwards, famous preacher, fire and brimstone. Jonathan Edwards is quoted, and Reformed theologists love this guy. He's quoted of basically saying, when you die and go to heaven, you're not going to be sad that your grandmother's burning and suffering and tormented in hell, because you will understand that God's justice and wrath is being displayed, and you will understand that the sinners that are in hell, they deserve to be there and they've chosen to be there. And with that greater understanding, it's not going to make you sad. It is the creepiest thing ever. and it's
So you just
disgusting.
lose all empathy once you
Yeah,
get
you
to
lose all
heaven.
Yeah.
empathy.
Like,
That love and
That's
bond
from
you had in family, not really a
that's from
thing.
Sinners in the Hand of an Angry God.
Thank you. You know it. I love that
I
you read so
do. I
much.
know it very well. I know it very, very well.
I'm kind of in
So
shock right
but I
now.
appreciate the question. Is there anything else you want to know about that? Like how I went through that process and how I think about
Well,
things now? Or
Niddy, when you did that, I pray that Maya becomes white. I instantly heard the words of Joseph Smith going, and delightsome. I mean, this is how bad it's like. I can't imagine how the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter Day Saints is going to overcome foundational shit in their scripture that absolutely frames
yeah, it's basically that.
frames racism right in there. And how many several hundred years, of of uh, of reinforcement of that on a cultural level doesn't go away in a decade or two.
Right.
And then this
Right.
goes back to what we've been talking about. It's like several hundred years of bad perception and and systems of thought don't disappear overnight.
Yeah.
And the only thing that you can do is try to chip away at them day by day by day by day, but the process is never over because those systems are well ingrained. And this is what critical race theory is about. This is basically deep history. It's like trying to understand the structural, the systemic nature of this, not just not just for white people, but for black people as well, for Native Americans as well. This is our history as people. As we are obviously culturally separated, but we're also culturally joined. We're a world of 8 billion people. And if there's to be a future for the human race, we need to get over those divisions, not forget them. We can't forget what's gone before. If we forget what's gone before, we're going to do it again because we are a social species, yes, but we're also a tribal species. We tend to form our little tribes, usually of about 100 people. It's like you figured out these are the people you associate with. But we've got to get over that sort of tribalism, and in order to progress, in order to make in order to address things that are global in scale, like climate change. That's a big fucking threat to the species, to the planet, to our home. In order to get over these things, in order to get over the things that are real threats, not just imaginary bullshit, like is is this person got a leg up on me or not? In order to address real shit, we've got to get over these things. And we're not going to get over them by just simply wishing them away and hand waving them away. It's not, no, these are critical things that we need to talk about. And we're not going to, and there's no God out there that's going to come in and solve the problems for us. The problem with Christianity for me is that there's altogether too many people who think that it doesn't matter, that Christ is coming, that this world will end, and we'll all
We'll
wind up
just
in
trash it.
nirvana.
Yeah, we'll just trash it. No big deal. Yeah.
So trash the thing, blow it all away. Let's get all the Jews back to Palestine, have Armageddon, and everybody gets killed. That's great.
The
That's
end.
that's a shitty
Yeah.
solution.
What a nice
That's a
day.
shitty solution to real world problems. And the future of humanity doesn't lie in heaven. It lies right here.
I,
And we've got to solve these problems amongst ourselves
now
and
you
get over ourselves to the point where we can actually, have a better world for the people that come after us.
I didn't want to say you can find allyship in um, things like race issues, immigration issues, LGBTQ issues in Episcopalians. You can find allyship in a lot of the Methodists, probably at least half. You can find allyship in some of the Anglicans. And the reason why I mention that is because faith is so important and spirituality is so important to some people. And I know atheists that are activists are really interested in dismantling it. But you actually do have God believing people that are willing to ally with folks. And Methodists are really good at focusing on helping those in need and social justice. In fact, it's actually in their bylines. That's what they care about. So I think that I just like to mention that there are Christians that are willing to ally. They also are willing to be honest about the rotten things that are in Old Testament history and trying to understand this is the Bronze Age. We don't need to live like that. And so they can have conversations like that as well. There's a guy named Tentative Apologist on Twitter, and I was watching this back and forth. People are like going at him that are Christians because he won't defend taking concubines in war and saying, okay, concubine, I know you're like 13 or 16 years old, somewhere around there. I'm going to take you as a potential wife. I've killed all your family, no big deal. I'm going to give you a month to get over it, and then I'm going to give you a chance to marry me. And that is like indefensible. That is like no understanding of psychology. It's no understanding of morality. It's evil. It's rape. It's bad. And people are defending it because they want to defend the goodness of God, and they think that like it's all connected, and they get stuck defending really evil things, even when it's causing dissidence between them. And they're like, I feel this is wrong, but I have to defend the goodness of God. And they're doing this crazy thing. And he came out and he's like, no, it's wrong.
Yeah.
We
Well-
don't defend it.
Jessica Heathen Queen has been going on for a few days. Was going on with some idiot who was defending David's actions vis-a-vis Bathsheba.
Oh my god.
Bathsheba and
Oh,
Uriah.
gosh.
It's like, wait a second, no,
Murder and power,
murder and rape. No,
It's
no,
actually
no.
worse than that, Spackle, because like as an ancient person, you could just presume that any girl under like a marriageable age is a virgin.
Mhm.
So it could have. It's like, oh, this one hasn't had period yet. Come on, in the wagon,
Wow.
you're going.
Yeah.
So it would.
So
It could have
gross.
been way worse. You made,
Yeah.
you gave it too
Oh.
much charity, my friend. I'm sorry.
like-
Yeah.
All I can say, Spackle, is you could go to my channel and watch the one actual video that's up there. Which was me giving a sermon in a Methodist church
I will watch.
Wow.
Awesome.
I will watch that.
on Transgender Day of Remembrance last year.
Awesome.
The pastor of the church has a trans boy.
Oh, wow.
Her
Yeah,
her
I mean, the
son
Methodists
is
have been really open-minded about, I think
Ex-
accepting.
except they're in schism.
Yeah.
They're in schism right now because the church is tearing itself apart over this issue.
It's
Yeah.
like in half.
I don't understand.
50-50.
The Bible doesn't talk about gender. Stop.
No, it doesn't.
Well, it does a little bit. Jesus talks about eunuchs, and the way that he says it is very interesting. Some were born this way, some were created this way. And people are like, conservatives are like, no, that just means that they're asexual, or that just means they're celibate, or that just means, I think it means some of them are queer, some of them are maybe trans, and I think it's more like that. I don't think that these things suddenly appeared in modern times. I think they always existed. It was just that it was acceptable to kill us. Like we always existed.
I think for that passage in particular, I don't want to go too far on a tangent, but my general understanding of it, as a Christian and non-Christian, is that the eunuch would, to most people, could have been viewed as some type of abomination if they were not in the service of some royalty, right?
Right.
So there were some people who maybe practiced becoming a eunuch in some form of like
How do you
rebellion or
practice
frustration.
that?
Hey, well,
I'm gonna cut
you
off my
know, it's
balls.
a one-way trip. So, but they became eunuchs on
Not,
purpose
not
from
to,
some
never
kind of
mind. I won't go
religious
there.
rite or pagan ritual, whatever, right? There were some that became it because they were in service of royalty, and then finally Jesus adds an additional point. Some become eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom.
Which is Paul,
Well, so, but then you
possibly.
have to postulate that they've removed their testes for God's sake, right? They've emasculated themselves for heaven's sake, if you take Jesus at his word. And the disciples are like, what the fuck is that? What? And he's like, look, I know it's a hard thing to say, but if you can accept it, do it.
I think it's always
God.
interesting,
If
that
you're really
passage.
serious about Jesus, you don't want your balls. That's what I'm saying.
I think that passage is really interesting for everybody that's toting around going, trans people are mutilating themselves. Should we let them mutilate themselves? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Careful. Careful.
But you hear the rhetoric, right?
No, I
Like,
hired a
you know,
professional.
You know, something happens on the 8th day of a child being born
I mean,
in
or
certain
like
cultures where they
within
lose a
24
piece of
hours, if you have a
foreskin and
baby,
the rabbi sucks the blood off. I mean,
it.
oh
wait,
gosh, that
what?
is so
I
You didn't
know, I
know
disgusting. I
that?
know.
didn't know the sucking the blood off until like I was
Oh,
reading
okay, you
about it. I'm
found
like,
out,
oh
yeah.
my gosh. What?
Yeah, I had to be told about it. It's
And
just
I
like,
heard
oh
it's
my,
not
it
really
always makes my skin
reversible.
crawl. Oh my God.
I did actually post that recently on Twitter. I said, all you guys that are upset about body mutilation are really quiet about circumcision. Like,
Oh
male
yeah, no,
circumcision is not really necessary.
Or breast
no, and
augmentation,
some
just
of
in
the
general.
Yeah.
legislation had to expressly say except circumcision because
And breast augmentation
What
or
about
reduction.
And
right,
The
intersex
Utah,
too.
the Utah,
Intersex.
the Utah bill specifically exempts
yeah.
cis girls
The
from
Tennessee law,
either of those
what
things.
about vasectomies?
right. Well,
Well,
I
it's
actually,
kind
like
of need
there
one.
are
well,
some people that
it's
want to block any form of birth control. There are some people that are
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. There's a fucking movement like that is seriously on the
the
chopping
full
block right
quiver
now.
movement.
It is.
Yeah,
Where
it is
they're
mind
not
blowing that
done.
birth control is at risk. Yeah. So, like, I don't know if you read the Tennessee law. I think I posted it to Twitter, and of course I can't find it. But this Tennessee law is going to possibly affect cishet women who have breast cancer. It is
Hmm.
literally written in a way where you cannot remove your breasts.
Yeah.
Like,
I
and
don't know
there's
about
no
you.
exemption for breast cancer. The exemption's for, get this, the exemption is for intersex children, because we need to fix that right away. Nobody can be non-binary. Nobody can be let to grow in an ambiguous way. We got to pick a side. And you know what? All these intersex kids usually are like, you're a woman, you're a woman, you're a woman across the board because it's easier. Like it's so messed up.
I don't know about you, but I don't want used car salesmen and building contractors making healthcare decisions for me as
I'm
they
just
sit in
saying.
as they sit in the state legislatures across the country. I don't need that, or for that matter, in the United States Congress. Fuck that
Well, I
noise.
mean,
Right.
was it? Oh God, was it? Oh, not Ohio, Idaho, or something. I just read the other day. They're closing down a hospital that serves like an
Yes,
entire area because
Idaho. It's Idaho.
Idaho. Yeah, because like the laws are written in such a way that they cannot keep practicing OBGYNs in the city, like or in the area, really. Like I don't know how the state's going to maintain
Hmm.
any like OBs.
There's already problems where I've already been reading stories of women who have pregnancies that are going to kill them. And this one
Mhm.
woman, to get around it, to save their life, they had to remove the baby with the uterus to get around the law.
God damn.
So like the baby's taken out, may or may not make it on a ventilator, and doesn't. And then this woman didn't have to have her uterus removed
God
if she
damn
was
it.
allowed to have an abortion. But because of the stupid law,
God
they
damn it.
made it so she can't have kids. And that just made me angry. When I read that, I was so angry.
Well, I mean, I'm reading about so many stories of women who are on the brink of death before the doctors feel like they're allowed to do anything. And it's ruining their chances of having another baby.
Yep.
I just,
Oh, I get mad when I see
somebody's
this
going to
too.
have to, like, it's going to get to the point where a white woman is going to have to die before they're going to, I mean,
They
just
already
like
are.
with, what do you call it? Was it Ireland where
A
that happened?
rich a rich white woman needs to die
Right.
because white women are already
Preferably
starting to.
beautiful.
Preferably
Yeah,
Melania
someone that is
Trump.
known. But we all know that the elite don't care about the social laws that they're creating. They like the social laws they're creating
Like
because
could
it
just pay
creates
off
a
the doctor
uproar,
too.
Yeah.
right? They've got, the uproar and the stuff. But the elite are never affected because if their daughter needs abortion, they're going to find it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Fly them to where they can get one.
Always has been that way. I
Yeah.
mean, when I was in high school, when you'd hear a story, oh, where's Sarah? Oh, she went to New York because
Oh.
abortion was legal in New York. It was not
Hmm.
legal in Massachusetts.
But they're making laws now that are saying like here's the this is going to cause people not to want to go to the doctor when they think they're pregnant. They're going to hide it. They're going to
Hmm.
try to
I
hide their pregnancy because as soon as you say, "Oh, I'm pregnant," ding. Now if you go, "Well, I'm going to go to California and go quote unquote camping in California, but I'm from Tennessee." Tennessee, I think now has a law, and so does Alabama, and now Texas is trying to pass it, where if you go out of state to have an abortion and you come back, they can still charge you with murder.
I mean,
Yeah, I think I heard about that
these
one.
are things that the well, that reminds me of the fugitive slave law, which is there's a
Oh,
long history
yeah.
there.
Oh boy.
But no, literally, this the patchwork of laws in the United States was something that was part of my teenage years.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, before Roe, that this is how it was,
Yeah.
and
Okay, let's
it's not good.
wrap up with Allyship.
Yeah.
Um, all right, we'll go around the clock. Stephanie, is there anything as it relates to white privilege, white guilt, allyship that you felt that you didn't get into these past 2 hours? Um,
Heck no,
please,
I think it was a hell of a conversation, to be honest.
yeah, you
And
guys are awesome.
I appreciate your asking me to be here, and uh, and I think it was a good conversation. I hope that I hope there's some good takeaway from it. Um, yeah, don't be speaking for the people you want to be allies with. That's the biggest thing I want to leave you guys with. Be speaking with them.
Yes.
That's what an ally does. An ally works with, not on behalf of. Not without support.
Yeah.
You can all too frequently step the wrong way and get, hey, wait a minute, could we have a word? You know,
Yeah, and your one trans friend doesn't speak for all trans people, all black
Also
people,
that,
all
yeah.
Jewish
yeah,
people.
my one black friend doesn't speak for. Oh, I have this one black friend.
All right. Well, would you like to show your shit?
I don't have much to shill. I do intend to be putting some more content up on my channel, but I haven't really figured out what to talk about. I've been unloading on Jay's channel, and you've graciously allowed me to pontificate here, which is nice. Uh, I've got some more thoughts on allyship, especially on the institutional side, that I really want to cover. Might be doing some of that on Takis. That supposedly I'm going to be doing some more work with those guys upcoming, but we'll see. And we're going to do a talk on the 22nd, I believe, of April on a bunch of us going to be talking about some of the laws that are being enacted on Skeptic Haven.
Okay.
Nice.
There's a lot of scary laws going on.
Yeah. All right, Spackle, is there anything that you felt like you didn't get to say throughout the stream?
Um, I think I said an awful lot. But what I would say is, um, remind us of how to be allies and what you need. Because a lot of us don't always know because of our viewpoints, right? Like, things look fine to me,
Yeah.
I'm fine. And hearing what you need helps. It helps a lot. And so that's all.
I think it's like what Steph was saying. I mean, I think allies, I say a lot, like, like, well, what one person said is what one person said, and they, can speak for a lot of people, but certainly not all people in a group. But when people are speaking, like, please hear us. Even if it, like, a lot of times when people say things, it's just like, well, that's weird. I haven't heard that before. And then I go look into it. And a lot of times, sometimes people either, one, are misunderstanding what's going on, or two, they have a special nuanced take that, when you look at the group, is a lot broader in scope, and they're feeling it this, specific way. So it's very important, if you're going to listen to how people feel, to understand their frame of reference, I guess, but also to look into, like, there's nothing that's going on today that doesn't have numbers, that somebody hasn't run through and said, hey, okay, well, they're saying defund the police, but this is what the movement is. They're saying, oh God, there's so many different things. They're saying this, that, or the other, but this is the movement. Even with God, Black Lives Matter, we got so much pushback on that, and I'm like, is this really that hard? I mean, if you don't understand what something means, or if you're taking it the wrong way, I mean, there's just so many people who've eloquently um, hashed out the talking points, and can, deliver it in, a way that's digestible for, the uncommon ally, or the enemy even. I think that if you can't relate to something that somebody's going through, you honestly, like Niddy said, you just don't want to watch the video, read the article, listen to the person. We just want you to understand where we are. And you don't, at the end of the day, have to agree, this is what we need to do. But can you at least understand where we're coming from? Because a lot of times we're just being blown off. Like, well, you just want to diddle kids in bathrooms.
Ugh.
I really just wanted to use the bathroom. I swear to God. Like, it's not more or less than that. Like, just hear us when we talk. I think is like the biggest thing. And I mean, honestly, just to get people open to hearing the conversation is the biggest hurdle. Once we can get you past that, where you're willing to listen to it, it's just so downhill.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to talk for you too, Stephanie. I mean, do you
No,
agree,
no,
disagree?
I agree. That's exactly right. Listen to the stories. Listen to stories. People you know, that's what we do. People tell stories. Listen to the stories. Not every story about any particular. Maya's story is going to be different from somebody in maybe Watts or Roxbury. There's going to be a different. There's going to be different nuances, but there's going to be commonalities. Just listen to the stories. Listen to what people are saying, and try to appreciate the person as a person. The thing is about all of this stuff, it's dehumanizing to say, oh, this person represents this group.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, it's not it. We can only speak to our own experience about this particular characteristic of our life experience. And you know and and uh, it's just another facet of being human. It's just another facet of humanity, and people ought to be open to hearing all kinds of different stories.
Yeah. All right, Spackle, show your shit.
I'm the holy Spackle, and I'm often misunderstood. I will say this. Um, I used to work in clergy, and I thought that's what I wanted to do. And I could have moved from that, obviously. um, but I would say that my presence is a little bit of a weirdo watcher, a little bit of a um, I use a lot of humor to kind of show some things that are awry in certain communities. But my favorite thing is to have conversations with people. And I think because I'm such a hybrid of a little bit of a shit stirrer and a little bit of a serious conversation and sincerity, that really confuses folks. So maybe I should have done my channel differently, but here we are. It sort of fell, and if you knew my history, you'd probably know. Okay, this is how you ended up here. A lot of the fundies are very much like lulz cows, so like real extreme ones.
Yeah.
So a lot of it's weirdo watching.
I saw
And
you had a Shanny video on there. I was like, oh boy.
Shanny for Christ, I knew for a very long time, and Jason used to call me a friend. I didn't really ever consider him quite a friend, but he considered me a friend. And a I have an interview with Jason, which is and I love doing interviews with people that are friendly. Even if I disagree with the person, I'll do like a friendly softball interview. And I know that
Hmm.
sounds like, well, you're going to promote some bad people. But actually, most people that are bad hang themselves. Like, like I'm just going to say the cup, like Beckel kind of did. Roy did. Like they'll show who they are. But my questions are always, can you hit a home run? And the people that do, and the people that don't. So I don't set up people for failure, but show your best self is what I tell people. Show your best self, because we
Nice.
oftentimes see each other's worst selves online, and
That's true.
so I love that. And obviously, I'm a big McRae detractor, which then made me fall into the land of Katie Joy and their detractors.
Oh, God.
And so, like, I do lulls at them a little bit. They're kind of my new fascination. um, but uh, again, my home base is I really like these kind of discussions. So that's my favorite thing. So
Nice.
if you see my channel, it's eclectic. If you run into
Yeah.
something that you don't like, don't watch it. If you do run into something that you like, watch it. I appreciate you being there. And so some people come for discussions and they like it. Other people are like, I'm not here for this Shanny for Christ stuff. I feel uncomfortable, and they'll leave. And that's okay too. So yeah.
All right. Well, I do appreciate you for coming because I know earlier we were talking and you said you weren't feeling well, and I really do appreciate you for coming in the stream, and I hope you're feeling better soon.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, Niddy, is there anything you wanted to say that you didn't feel you got to express during the stream?
Um, I just, well, one is I did not know about the lakes and flooding practices that happen in addition to the other things. So,
Really?
yeah, no, I did not know about that. So I'm gonna look more about that and be like, hot damn, that's some shit. Um, so I learned something today, and I'm not happy about what I learned, but I want to use what I've learned to also further educate people about, hey, this is the kind of stuff that this country did. People like us did. And now I've actually started to wonder the value in questions for people like that deny that they or just don't see their privilege and the bias that they might come from, and asking a question like, our favorite SE kind of practice, what would convince you that you do have privilege? Or
Mm-hmm.
what would it take to show you that uh, the country, like what evidence would convince you that you do live in a culture or society that did, you know, prioritize you over other groups and actively hurt their chances, right?
Right.
So, yeah, just getting that kind of like getting people to be like, well, maybe if I did like encounter like information like what you shared, or um, actually talk to people who suffered through these kinds of things, maybe that would change my mind. Okay, and then you could be like, well, I know a few. Do you want to talk to them?
God.
And so that's one thing I want to say is like when we are in these conversations and we think someone might benefit, who's being an honest interlocutor, not like someone who's just going to dig their heels and be a dickweed, but um, an honest interlocutor that might want to hear from someone who is not your experience, but the experience they're wanting to speak to, uh, getting them in touch, make them interact with the person who's actually affected by the issue you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
or at least pointing them in the direction of their channel or where they can hear them talk, right?
Right.
Um, and you know, with the whole, I wonder sometimes, and I said this to my mom, if a lot of the demonization and polemics toward the trans community is coming from this fear that if I admit that people fall on a spectrum, my God is wrong. Like this core fundamental belief at the heart of my book, my life, my beliefs, God made me or her male and female, right? There's a
Mm-hmm.
binary, there's no questions. God said it, it's done. But if there's a
Right.
spectrum and people come out the womb, people exist in the world that aren't one of my two categories, my God is wrong. What do I do then? Everything's broken now. Like to make that concession or admission is to start to deconstruct a very core part of their narrative, and they just can't do it. They just
Yeah.
can't. Because
Yeah.
if they give up this ground and admit to the spectrum, then their kids are going to be like, well, mommy, daddy, God didn't really make Jenny female.
Yeah.
Didn't make Stephanie female. What does that mean? Right? I don't know. Oh God, I don't have an answer, and it makes it freak out.
I have a little bit of a thought to that. Can I say real quick?
Yeah.
Sure,
Um, I know people get
I
all in a
might be
tiff.
psychologizing. Sorry.
They all get in a tiff when somebody goes, God, she, and her, and they go,
Oh yeah.
ah,
Yeah.
it's a he, it's a he. Here's the thing: the creator of the universe, the sustainer of all things, as they describe it, right? The sustainer of all things, the creator of the universe, were made in God's image, the Imago Dei. Those things. Do you think that God requires a penis
No,
Depends who
just
you
or a
XY
ask.
vagina
chromosomes.
or a vagina? You think that?
Right.
Yeah,
And the
just
reason
XY
why,
chromosomes, because that's
and the
clearly
reason,
what men have, all of them.
And the reason why I mention that, because a lot of times people go, well, God's a spirit floating in the sky, and Jesus is God with skin on, and it's like, okay, well, all right, but God doesn't have sex. God doesn't need a penis. God doesn't need a vagina. I always viewed God as above gender. Like,
Hmm.
it's not a thing. It's just not a thing. Like, why would
Yeah.
that be a thing? So like I really don't care what pronouns you use for God or anything.
Yeah.
But
Right.
but I think it's putting God in a box, and theology likes to put God in a box.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Well,
yeah.
well, to your point, I agree with the idea of, what is God's gender, all that hoopla. But it's more about, I think, people feel like they need to be told by their God. The creator creation distinction is what's
Right.
important here, right, in this conversation. And if the creator's wrong about the creation, that's the problem. Um,
And the
so, at any rate,
really real quick, the
yeah, yeah,
reason why it sounds like I conflated gender with penis and gender with vagina isn't because I don't think that gender's tied to those things
yeah,
intrinsically, but we're talking to people that do think
Yeah.
that.
right, yeah. We get you, we get you. But yeah, those are the things that I want. And yeah, maybe I'm over psychologizing it a bit, but maybe for some people it is that way, especially like the
I think it's like
extremists
that
on the
with
pulpits
Well, for the
that we
extremists,
watch.
certainly. I
evolution.
mean, they can't handle, like, well, God didn't create everything through evolution, so I'm an
Yep.
atheist now.
Yep, that. Yep. Well, I
Yeah.
run into what I call fundies on the atheist side. So God isn't fundamental understanding of Christianity, and because of that, now I'm a raging atheist. And it's like, okay. And then I'll watch them be a raging atheist, and they'll come back to fundamental Christianity. I kid you not. I've seen it several
Yeah.
times.
Hmm. Wow.
Oh,
And then
by the
I,
way, I just said raging atheist. No relation to raging atheist. Sorry.
Right, right. Yeah,
So,
no, he has not gone back to Christianity. So.
yes, Stephanie.
Niddy, may I suggest a book to you? It's called The Power Broker: Robert Moses and the Fall of New York, written by
Hmm.
Robert Caro. It's a great book, and it goes into the whole urban renewal thing.
Hmm.
And Robert Moses was responsible for all the parkways in New York. All the and Fire Island. He was sort of did that whole thing. It's like it's an interesting story, and the Cross Bronx Expressway and the destruction of that neighborhood and all of this stuff. It's
Damn.
the complexities of urban renewal of the 50s and 60s. It's a great book. It's a really good book, and
Hmm.
talks to the well, the title speaks for itself. The Power Broker.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Sweet.
Well, I want to thank all of you for coming on and sharing your stories and your opinions tonight. I think we've had a great discussion, and it looks like the live chat has enjoyed themselves a lot.
Yeah.
So I want to thank everybody for coming to the stream, and you know, I guess with my parting words, just remember that we're all the same, and we just all need to help each other. And the things that I always say to the black community is, we don't have the ability to look away or to not stand with any other group, because if they're not all if there's anything at all that they're not already doing to us, we're next. So we have to stand together. It's our only hope.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, I will see everybody. Oh, in my stream tomorrow, 9:30, I'll be with Dr. Tapioca Weasel, and we'll be talking about
Nice.
wacky cryptid shit. So,
Sweet.
bye.
Wacky what?
We talk about